question is, are you sponge-worthy? The Sponge is a good episode. I definitely would put it above The Pool Guy. Maybe not quite above The Secret Code, but I still thought it was a pretty good episode. It kind of revisits a story somewhat told from back in The Secret Code, where, you know, again, just playing off another storyline. Again, these 3 episodes on this 3 so far all have had a story, you know, showing the cracks in George and Susan's, you know, engagement. You know, in the first episode, you know, George, you know, is realizing that, you know, he has nothing to hold to himself anymore, personally. Then, of course, in the last episode showed that Susan does not mesh well with George's friends. And then in this episode, we kind of revisit it again, but also basically saying, you know, you can't hold a secret from me regarding, like, you know, your friends also, basically. Couples that tell each other, of course, everything. But I thought it was funny. The whole Sponge storyline. And then, you know, Jerry's, you know, little, you know, phobia about being a 32, so he changes all of his jeans to a size 31. A way how he got a woman's number. And Kramer making a big fuss. And then, you know, him stand up for himself just led to him getting beat up. So, yeah. Let's talk about the Sponge episode. So, the episode starts off, I guess, George was telling Susan this thing about how Jerry, for some reason, does not want to be anything higher than a 31 like he was in jeans since college. And he says, I can't believe I told you that because, you know, Jerry told him not to tell anybody. And Susan, of course, gets offended, saying, well, you should be able to tell me everything. We're a couple, this and that. Couples tell each other everything, this and that. And they get into a fight. Kramer, meanwhile, is planning on taking part in the AIDS walk. And he's asking if you know, Jerry and Elaine would sponsor him, which they signed their names. While they're signing on them, though, Jerry sees the number of this girl, Lena Small, that he had just recently met, but he didn't get her phone number, and he wanted to call her and ask her out on a date. And they're basically saying, you know, no, it's a crummy idea to steal her number off of this list to do so. He goes, he'll never know. She'll never know. I'll just, you know, come up with a story, something about, you know, he some guy that knew her, and then he can't remember his name, but he's going to distract her by talking about some story about like about buying a boat or something like that, basically. Elaine, meanwhile, she's really hitting it off with her new boyfriend, Billy, which I gotta check. I don't know for sure, but the Billy to me kind of looked like the same guy who played Joel Rifkin. One of Elaine's other older boyfriends in a recent season. He just reminded him a lot of them a lot of each other. So, but I guess Elaine was trying to get her form of birth control, which apparently, first off, is revealed that George at the time does not know what Susan's is, which is strange. I'm sure they've done it a few times already, but yeah, how does he not know, you know, what hers is? So then Elaine, of course, you know, hers is the Today Sponge, which Kramer tells that they're being discontinued. And Elaine's basically going to every drugstore trying to find another, you know, the last bit of sponges she can find. Till she gets to this one that has one whole case left. And at first, I'll take a couple. Oh, just a couple? Yeah, 10's fine. 10's fine? Yeah, 20's okay. And basically, you know, the numbers are going up, and she said, just give me the whole case. She took the entire last case. And then, of course, Jerry does call Lena, and, you know, she, of course, asks how to get my number, and then he just works around it, doesn't worry about coming up. Of course, he ends up going on a double with George and Susan, because George and Susan just got into a fight, and it was been awkward. So, you know, they went out to dinner, the two pairs, and then And then there was a moment where Susan and Lena both had to go to the bathroom. And I forget what George said, but to me it riled up Jerry about he was trying to keep it a secret that he had gotten Lena's number off of the Kramer's AIDS walk list, which it was kind of one where I'm like, okay, Jerry, why did you open your mouth? You didn't have to say anything because George had no clue. Of course, he then tells George. George then tells Susan. Now, earlier in the episode, Jerry imagined what would have happened if because even George asked her in the episode, how did you get her number? And he was about to tell George, but then he's thinking, nah, I shouldn't. And he imagines what Susan would do, which of course Susan would do, which we'll get to that in a second. Kramer, meanwhile, though, he's preparing for the AIDS walk. Well, he had been complaining about, how he had to walk up 5 flights of stairs and he felt tired out. And then Jerry's like, you're not going to make it. You're not going to make it for your AIDS walk. He had even had a poker night the night before and he was up all night. And Jerry just kept saying, how are you supposed to survive this AIDS walk? With him being up all night, him only not being able to survive a few flights of stairs and whatnot. So he's already, just doubting Kramer will be able to survive the AIDS walk. Of course, meanwhile, George and Susan made up and wanted to, have makeup sex. So she told George to stop by a drugstore, but George, of course, had no clue what Susan uses. Until he finds out that Susan also likes the sponge. But, of course, he tells her that the sponge has been discontinued. So then he drives to Elaine's, where Elaine was getting ready to, get started with Billy. George had tried to, borrow some sponges from Elaine, but Elaine basically said, no way, not happening, and just shuts the door on George. So then Elaine goes to get the sponge, but then starts looking like she's having some doubts. Like, what's this about? I'm not sure. Which later she told, she's realizing with how she has the last of the sponges in that case. Like, once that case empties, that's it. No more. So then she starts thinking, well, maybe I have to pick and choose here, because what if they're not sponge worthy? I don't want to waste the sponge, basically, if it's not going to be with someone who's not worthy of it. Of course, later on in the episode, Elaine basically has like an intervention with Billy, and he explains why he thinks he's very sponge worthy. And then, he's around things like, you cleaned your room. Basically, I felt like he was talking to a little kid, you're going to clean your room and do something about the sideburns, this and that. And I was like, okay, good. So they did do it, but then the next morning when Billy tried to go for a round 2, Elaine was like, no. And I thought for a second, like, whoa, did she not like it enough? Which she did, but she's saving the sponges, basically. But anyways, of course, getting back to George and Susan, first off, Susan went blabbing, telling one friend that Jerry imagined, because George told Susan, and then Susan told her one friend Diane that, again, Jerry got a woman's number off an AIDS walk list. And of course, chain reaction, it got back to Lena. But Lena, who apparently, does a lot of, volunteer work, she does stuff like a soup kitchen. Like, her and Jerry had a discussion about, the soup kitchen people eat like, soup like 3 times a day in this way. But, of course, Lena then confronts Jerry, but, she didn't care. And that's when Jerry starts thinking, she's too good. She's too good, basically. And Jerry doesn't like, too good and too innocent. That's not his type. So when he goes over to try to talk to her and break up with her, first, but then she then needed to, I guess she was cleaning like a sweater, so she needed to change that load. And she asked Jerry to go grab a towel for him. And then Jerry goes into the towel to find out that Miss Too Innocent actually has 24 cases of sponges in her closet. So she's not as innocent as she looks. And then Jerry just randomly tells her that, he had something to... So Lena knew that Jerry had something to tell her, and then for some reason Jerry just tells this thing about his jean size and one, and apparently it was a turn-off, and she basically kicked Jerry out, and they broke up. Strange, but, whatever. But then, of course, Jerry wasn't happy that George had told Susan. But, of course, well, then again, of course, she took it well, so it didn't really matter in the end. But anyway, so the day of the AIDS walk, Kramer mentioned earlier he's not want to wear the ribbon. He doesn't have to wear a ribbon. He's walking and talking. That's all he's doing. Well, of course, they made a big fuss out of it whenever Kramer didn't take the ribbon. And while he's walking, other people who's walking notice that he's not wearing the ribbon. And then, of course, this one guy calls out these two guys, Cedric and Bob, who happen to be the two gay thieves who took what's it called now? The Armor, whatever heck it's called, that, big, like shells and whatnot. The ones who took the Armor from the Soup Nazi episode, they were back, and this is the second, I believe, of 3 times that we see them. They're like, who doesn't want to wear that ribbon? And of course, he gets confronted, and they all beat him up. And of course, Kramer crosses the line, and of course, they don't know at the time it's because Kramer got beat up for not wearing the AIDS ribbon. But they think that, again, Jerry and George didn't think that, he could survive the AIDS walk after playing poker all night. Of course, in the blooper reel, though, they did this prank where they were going to, take their pants off over top of him and just do something stupid or whatnot. But it was goofy, but funny episode for sure. Again, Elaine, being protective over sponges. Like, oh, shoot, I forgot. I almost forgot my favorite part of this episode. So, of course, since Susan couldn't get a sponge and Elaine, didn't let, George take one, she even stomped on his foot for him to shut the door. But, so then Susan says, why don't you just use a condom? And George's like, no, I'm not using condoms. Well, why not? He goes, I can never get it open in time. Basically saying, he, loses the feeling by the time he gets it open. He says, I always struggle to get it open. And then Susan's like, you just tear it? He goes, no, you don't tear it. You have to open like you open up a bag of chips. So I guess they got one, and then they show a close-up later of their hands only. And George, again, is struggling to get that open. So he's just like, I'm trying, damn it, but you have to open it like it's the bag of chips. So then finally, Susan wrestles it out of George's hand. She tears it open, no problem. So the range, she's like, come on. And then, again, the hand motions were just perfect by George in this. He just, goes, it's too late. I guess it's open for the Head Start next time. I don't know, but completely forgot to mention it. But that's my favorite part of the episode. It's too late. I'm trying, damn it, but you gotta open like it's a bag of chips. Oh gosh. But that is the sponge episode. Are you guys sponge worthy? Just kidding. Don't answer that if you don't want to, of course. Don't answer it. But yes, that's my thoughts on the sponge. I believe the next episode is the gum. Another so-so episode for me. It was okay. It wasn't one of my favorites, but we'll probably just shoot the breeze on that one really quick. Not much other really, trivia here for this one. This is not the first time, of course, Kramer gets beat up in an alleyway. Actually, originally, an original storyline they were going to do for this episode, but it dropped out, was that they were going to have Kramer and Newman buy stocks in the contraceptive devices. But they dropped that. And then, it's, just, I guess, just other small tidbits, but nothing really too crazy. But that's really the only, trivia fact I got for this episode. But we'll see you next time in the gum episode. We also see in this episode the return, different actor this time, the return of Lloyd Braun. What's he been up to since he got fired by David Dinkins, the mayor, back in the non-fat yogurt? Please leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. And be sure as always to slap a like on the video, guys. Subscribe for more content on my channel. Follow me on Twitter as well, at DemandAirboy93. Till then, guys, I am checking out. I'll catch you all later. Have a great rest of your night. Peace out, everybody.